Welcome to the Justice Room. Your life, your rights, your options. Experience and learn from discussions with legal professionals and other experts about the law, its challenges, and how it could affect you. Here at the Justice Room. Welcome to the Justice Room. In adult court, and again, I'm referencing adult court because I want the people to understand the differences between the two. Is there a bond for a child before they're released to the parent?
Some cases will have a bond before they're released to a parent.
Mm-hmm. Conditions of release?
Yes. The children's conditions of release can be different than adults in that there would be, a curfew. You got to obey your parents' rules. You must attend school.
And if they don't, what happens?
That person can be violated on their pretrial release conditions because at that point, at a detention hearing, it's prior to any trial. It can be violated and detained as a sanction for not complying.
Okay. So there are in some cases bond conditions. And if they violate those bond conditions, that's really no different than sometimes the adult system, and where if they violate, what happens?
Well,
they don't listen to a parent. They stay out past their curfew. They or whatever any condition may be. They're released to the parent. Now they violate. What happens?
Well, the parent has the authority to call and say, "My child did not make curfew," and that would invoke a violation. At that point, there would be a hearing set for the child to come back before the court, for the court to determine what the sanction would be. It could be a day in detention. It could be any of a number of things. It could be just a warning by the court to, behave and do what you're supposed to do until we can finally resolve the case. So there are various things that can happen.
Okay. We're going to probably end up having this show in two separate segments because there's a lot of other things that I'd like to talk to you about as well. For example, sentencing and dispositions for children in the legal system, juveniles and their probationary conditions, boot camps for children. I'm not sure if all states have boot camp systems, but tell me a little bit more about, and we're going to get to some of those probably in another show, okay, for delinquency with you, and hopefully you'll come back and do that with us. But tell me a little bit about the arraignment process with children.
Well, the arraignment process, once the detention hearing is complete, the court will generally give the arraignment date there in court if they have dates. If not, they will be sent a date in the mail. The child will go to arraignment. By then, most parents have either hired an attorney for the child or either the child will qualify for the public defender.
Mm-hmm.
Once the child appears at arraignment, either the attorney for the child will have entered a denial or either the child will be stating that I'm still trying to get an attorney. At that point, most people at arraignment enter denials so that discovery can be completed.
Now, let me interrupt you real quick. Denials, it's in essence the same thing as someone saying not guilty?
Yes.
Okay.
In juvenile court, they're called denials. They have admissions, and so
and admission would be similar to guilty or no contest.
Well,
or is that something different?
Well, yeah, pretty much an admission could go either way: guilty, no contest.
Okay, and for children, again, for adults, you have adjudication withholds, you have non-adjudication withholds. Is that the same thing for a child?
Yes. Now, in delinquency court, same thing. You can have a withhold or an adjudication of guilt.
Okay. And does that follow the child once they're over the age of 18? Because my understanding is that juvenile records are sealed records, and the public cannot see these records.
And that is a very common misconception. I've heard many people say that your juvenile record can never affect you, and that is so untrue. because if a juvenile offender commits an offense and they have a juvenile history, and let's say they turn 18, and it's an adult court and it's a felony, felony has score sheets as well that scores previous offenses of people in adult court. Felony court can go back if those juvenile offenses are within 3 years of the adult offense and score those juvenile offenses. So while there may have been a kid who thought that their juvenile possession of cocaine or their 5 burglaries would not be held against them, could find themselves at 18 scoring automatic prison because of juvenile offenses.
Oh, okay. So then the juvenile score sheets, I think I'm going to bring that one up in a different show if that's all right. But juvenile score sheets are different than adult score sheets. They're
juvenile score sheets are only used at the beginning stages to see if the child scores detention. Now, in felony court, score sheets are used to see does a person score prison or non-prison sentence at the end of the case. So that's the difference.
Okay. So, and I'd like to end at least this segment of the show, if we could, talking a little bit about pretrials on a delinquency case. Explain a little bit about what is a pretrial for or in a delinquency case.
Court?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the attorneys and the minor children will appear in court, and a lot of times the children are transported by their parents, so the parents as well will appear, and that's the time where the court says, where are we in the case, what type of thing is going to happen right now. Are we going to have a trial? Is the child going to enter a plea? That is what happens at pretrial.
Okay. And so sometimes a case can be completed at a pretrial stage, or maybe it can be
a person could
settled, if you will.
a plea at pretrial.
And the case is over.
Well, the court can take the plea and decide if they want to proceed on to disposition that day or later on.
Okay, and disposition meaning?
Is the equivalent of sentencing in a criminal case for an adult.
Okay, but now, for somebody that may not understand what sentencing or disposition might mean, what would be a good definition for that? A disposition meaning the outcome of the case or the final result of the case?
What the judge says they have to do as part of the plea, whether it be probation, they're going to a program, that's what disposition would be.
Okay, which could happen at the pretrial stage.
Yes, if they're into a plea and are ready to proceed to disposition.
Okay, when you come back, I'd really love to talk a little bit more, because I don't think we were able to completely cover everything we wanted to talk about a little bit today on the delinquency court system. When you come back, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about sentencing and dispositions a little bit more, juvenile score sheets, different programs for children in delinquency court, competency hearings for children. If we could, and the reason why I'm saying it is so that the people out there listening to the show can know that this next show hopefully is coming really soon for them, so that they understand that this is not the entire system in delinquency court. There's a lot more that's involved in this.
Okay.
So hopefully you'll be able to come back soon so we can put that out there for everybody, and understanding that this is not the only 4 or 5 things that are involved in delinquency court.
Yes, I can come back for sure.
Okay, because another thing I wanted to talk to you about is custodial interrogations, and what their rights are there, or what their options might be there, and so we can hopefully cover that in the next show as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks again for coming on the show and talking to us a little bit today about delinquency court. I appreciate having you on the show.
And thank you for having me.
If you'd like to reach Ms. Thomas, you can reach her at her website, which is attorney4u.org. And I'm going to spell that out for you because it's rather unique. It's attorney, the number 4, YOU.org. You can also reach her at her law office. She has offices located here in Central Florida. Her phone number is 407-574-8529. Again, if you'd like to reach Ms. Thomas, you can reach her at her website, attorney4u.org, or 407-574-8529. I'd like to thank you for listening to another episode of The Justice Room.